Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next Foreman Community Demo. Gilvin here with the usual updates. We've got a reasonable schedule for you today. I was hoping for a little bit more, given that it's been an extra week since the last demo, but it seems that we're all still recovering from conference chaos. So I'm gonna start with a few updates of my own. Because I can abuse my position like this, right? As the person running the demo. So a few community updates. As many of you will know, we had the busy conference season that is the start of February in the last couple of weeks. So FOSDEM, Config Management Camp, our first ever Foreman Hack Day, Foreman Construction Day, and DevConf as well. These were all very successful from where I was sitting. There was a lot of chat, there was a lot of talk, a lot of interest in Foreman. It was really good to see. Good to put some faces to IRC names. I have written a trip report of each of those 4 separate things on the users mailing list. If you're interested in knowing what happened, please do go and read them. If you were there, please do share your thoughts on everything Foreman related from those conferences. I would really love to hear how it looked from other people's perspectives. So that's conferences. Upcoming stuff, there's a few things to talk about. We are just starting to plan a bug day, which we've not done for quite a while. This is something that's very early stages yet. We are hoping to do it soon. There is a thread on the Foreman dev list about it, so if you're interested in the discussions about how to organize it, go there. Once we've got the details together, I'll put a wider email out to the users list to try and encourage as many people as possible to come through and help. The idea is to try and put some focus on bugs ahead of the 1.11 release. So triaging bugs, making sure that they're sensibly written up, that they can be acted on at a later point. Verifying bugs, like taking some demo systems. Maybe you've got your own sandbox system. We'll try and provide a few systems so we can try and verify whether bugs still exist and need fixing. And possibly even also, obviously, writing patches as well, all depending on what people want to work on. So that'll be the first bug day we've had in a long time, so I'm looking forward to that. There's a bunch of upcoming things from me that you'll see coming up. I'm starting to finally script the Foreman Beginner's Guide, so I'm going to start recording the first couple episodes of that very soon, now that I've got the conferences out of the way. And there's also going to be some other sort of process and organizational work that I'm working on, but that will get discussed in due course. I don't want to get too much into that until I've fleshed out the details. So lots going on in the background. As ever, if you have anything community related that you want to come to me to, do come through. Oh, I almost forgot. The Foreman Community Survey is now closed. Thanks to everyone who responded to that. We've had lots of replies. I'm going to be doing some data analysis on that in the next week or two, and I'll get a blog post up to talk about the results of that survey. So that's going to be really exciting. And we also had some interest in speaker arrangements. So if you are looking for speakers on Foreman, or if you want to give talks on Foreman, come and talk to me. I'm putting together a list of people who are in either of those camps, and where they're prepared to travel, or what dates they need speakers for, and things like that. So that's me done waffling for a few minutes. Very quick overview of what's happening from my position. We're going to move on to the actual demo now, for the people who actually do some work instead of just talking for a living. So we're going to start up with David, who is going to give us a look at what's been happening in the content view and syncing worlds. So David, I'm going to hand this over to you, I think.
All right, cool. All right, can you guys see my screen?
We can indeed.
Okay, cool. So this past iteration, we added lazy sync to Catello, which basically lets you fetch packages after you've pulled down the metadata, so you no longer have to wait for Pulp to pull down all the packages in order to start using them. And there's 2 new methods for doing this. The first is background, which just pulls down the metadata during the sync and then starts up a background process to download the rest of the packages. And the other one is on demand, which pulls down packages as they're requested by consumers. So I'm going to demo on demand. The first thing I'm going to do is just create a product. And right now, Lazy Sync is only available for Yum repositories. We might add support for other repository types in the future, but right now it's just Yum. So you'll see here a new field called download policy. And here you see background and on demand, which I've described, along with immediate. And immediate is the old style that Cotello has had up until this point. So you can still use that if you want. Here I'm just going to choose on demand. I'm just going to use a small repo. And now I'm going to go in and actually sync the repo. And again, it's just going to download the metadata. It's going to look like it's actually fetching the packages, but they're not going to be on the file system. They're not actually there. But I can still use them in Cotello as if they were there. Now, just to prove that the packages aren't on the file system, when I look at the content directory, there's no packages in the content directory. If I look at the publish directory, which has symlinks to the packages, you can see that they're all broken. They don't point to actual files. And so next thing I'm going to do is create a consumer to actually consume content. And we should see Squid, which is what Pulp uses as the proxy. It will actually go out and fetch these packages on demand and then save them to the file system. So right now I'm just rolling a activation key. And I've got a VM already set up. I'm going to download the consumer RPM on the separate VM, install the RPM. I'm going to register back to my Cotello server. And after I've done this, I can install packages for my zoo repo. I'm going to install Zebra. This has, I think, like 10 or 11 dependencies, so I should see like 11 packages back on my Cotello server now on the file system. First, I'm just going to look at the Squid logs to show you that Squid is actually receiving these requests and fetching the packages. Here you can see the requests for the packages like Lion, Zebra, and so on. It stores them in cache, and here you can see that there was a cache miss, so I had to actually go and fetch the package. And if I look at the actual file system, I should see these packages now. And I do. And the symlink should also be fixed for the ones that I requested from my client, and they are. One thing to note, though, is there's a bit of an interval. Here I've decreased it so that it just basically fetches the packages out of Squid automatically, but it might take, like, I think up to 30 minutes, depending on how we set the interval, to actually see the packages on the file system. But that's on demand. There's also background, which you can test out. And that's pretty much all I had to demo. I'll stick around for questions, though.
All right. Thanks very much, David. We do have one question from Lukash. He's asking, I think there's a typo in his question, but I think what he's actually asking is Cotello now shipping Squid as part of this? Or do you have to enable something additionally?
Yeah, so in the next release of Cotello, we'll actually be shipping Squid as part of Cotello, and the default will be on demand for repositories moving forward as well.
Cool. For my own understanding, so this turns the content views into a kind of a caching proxy, right? So this is not helpful if you are on a disconnected site. If you've got an air-gap site with no access to the internet, you'll still have to do a normal type of sync, right?
That's correct. Although you could use the background, because the background will go and fetch the packages in the background, like right after you sync it. That's an option.
Oh, right. So that gives you the option to start using the UI properly right away, and then in a couple of hours or whenever you can disconnect the internet connection or what have you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. Thanks very much for that, David. Do hang around in case there's any more questions. I'll just check IRC, but I don't see any questions there for you. A reminder, because I forgot to mention it, if you do have any questions live, please do come and join us on the IRC channel, #theforeman in Freenode, or you can use the Q&A app in the YouTube and Google events. Both of these will work. I am monitoring both of them. Okay, so up next then we have Adam, who's going to give us the first of some updates on the remote execution plugin, which is hugely popular at the moment. So in this case, we're going to talk about job control. So Adam, if you're ready, I think it's your turn.
Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Great. So the feature I've been working on is advanced job control, which allows us to set concurrency level and distribute tasks over time. The old and still default behavior is just to start all the tasks at once, which we should see once it loads. When I head to hosts tab, we can see that all the tasks are started and running immediately. This could be a problem if you launch some job on a large number of hosts, let's say hundreds or thousands. To address this issue, I made this feature, and it allows us to set the maximum number of concurrently running tasks and also define a maintenance window within which the tasks have to run. So to demonstrate both at once, I will set concurrency level to 2, so at most 2 tasks will be running at a time. Each task will take about 10 seconds, so if we give it, let's say, 40 seconds, it should not have enough time to finish. We'll start the job, and once it loads, we can see that all the tasks get planned first, and only 2 of them are running at the time. So we'll wait for a bit, and we should see that those 2 switch to the success state, and another 2 become running. Exactly. 2 are successful now, the another 2 are running, and the rest is planned. And if we give it a bit more time, we should see that the tasks which could not be started within the set maintenance window will fail. Yes, exactly. The last 4 didn't manage to be started, so they were failed, and we can see an error message in the output stating that they could not be started within the window. And that would be probably it. One more thing, it's implemented at the dime flow level, so it should be reusable in any part of Foreman catalog and their plugins. That would be it for me.
Cool. That's really, really nice. What's the next step for this? It's a loaded question because one thing that I know comes up a lot in production systems is the idea of a canary, right? Where you do like 1 or 2 systems, and if they pass, you do everything else, right? You do the other 100 systems. Is that something that you're working on supporting or have a note of?
I would just add that we have an issue opened against this. We track it as a separate issue or a feature request that we might implement in the future, but not directly connected to this one.
Right.
But it might be like the next step.
Cool. No, it just made me think, because the minute I see like 2 hosts and 2 hosts and 2 hosts, I immediately think, what can I say 2 hosts and then 100 hosts? It's kind of like just like a non-linear version of this, right? Anyway, very, very cool stuff. So thanks very much, Adam. And since you're there, Ivan, I guess we can move on to you next. So Ivan's got quite a few updates for us, I think, on a variety of remote execution things. So if you're good to go, Ivan, then we'll do you next.
So you should see my screen now.
Yes, indeed.
So from my side, it will be mainly about the developer API. So how you can plug your or reuse your feature or reuse remote execution in your features, either in the Foreman core or in plugin or whatever the Foreman is extended. So as part of the design, we knew that we want some developer API which would provide a mapping between the features that are in the system and the templates that are defined in the remote execution and between the remote execution invocation itself. So now it's time that it's implemented. So I will first show one use case which is using the remote execution for pixel-less reprovisioning of a host. So in the code, I've registered as part of the reprovision feature, I've registered an endpoint where I'm saying that I will have some feature inside the code that will provide a script for reprovisioning, and this UI that can be found in the remote execution features allows to map this particular feature to a specific job template. So if I go into the job templates and show the reprovision SSH default, all we do here is just render the script that we get as an input, and then we call power action restart. So how it looks when I render it, it just restarts a host and waits some time. So let's see how it works in practice. So I have here a host that I have no DHCP managed network, but I want to reprovision it. So let's see how it goes. The machine is here. So I have hit the reprovision button. I want to move that under the build toggle, but for now it's here, so let's use it. I will trigger reprovision, and the host should get restarted and start reprovisioning again, as it does. So this is demonstration that I can use the remote execution for a particular feature outside of the remote execution itself. So this is one case for doing so. You can imagine similar things for Puppet run or run or OpenSCAP scan or whatever is really needed. And another use case for this is the content actions in catalog. So I will switch now into my catalog level instance that I've seeded more features that are provided in the catalog, and it's all about installing packages, package groups, or errata. So first, let's look at the content host where I have here some content host that I want to install a package on. So let's try ZSH, and the new option button shown here that I can now choose if I want to run that via catalog agent or via remote execution. So if I go with remote execution, basically the developer API will handle the mapping between this feature and the job template in remote execution, and at the end, as a result, the ZSH will get installed via remote execution. So I'm sorry for the VM being a bit slow, but you can really see that the install.sh happened on this particular host. Another feature for this is the errata install, and I will also demonstrate this not on single host but on a host group. So let's try the errata installation. I will here select all hosts so that the search applies and the action should happen on all hosts that match this search. I will select this errata, and now I will choose to run with remote execution, but I want to first customize the thing, which instead of invoking the job directly, gets me to the job invocation form, and I could customize the run if I want it. So I could do things. So you can see that the errata really was filled in. You can see the search query based on the previous UI. You can see which template was selected, and I could do some advanced stuff such as running in future or set up recurring tasks, configuring the concurrency level, and so on. So this is for the cases where you don't want just to invoke the job, but also to customize some other things in there. So this is the second part. You can see that the button for the remote action is still there. So the last thing to show is what happens to when I hit the perform button without selecting which technology I want to use. So in the catalog settings, there is the new option remote execution by default, which if set to true, then the button gets me directed to job invocation. When it's set to false, which is by default, the old behavioral and the catalog agent will be used for the execution itself. So if I hit the, because I have that set to true and hitting the perform button, the remote execution handles the package installation. So that's really it from my side.
Okay, we have a few questions for you, Ivan. So I'm going to start with Lukasz, because he's asked a similar question to what I was thinking. You showed the reprovisioning, but maybe I missed it, or maybe I just wasn't quick enough to see what happened. But how did remote execution do the reboot there? Was that a K exec? Was that a modification to the bootloader? How did it go from being in the OS to booting into Anaconda?
Okay, so I've used the technique described in blog post some time ago with using Groovy and the script provisioning, but we could do the same with kexec. I just didn't know or haven't enough knowledge on that, so I took the approach that I knew worked.
Of course, that makes sense. Could you just so that's just a script type template that you're then invoking through remote execution, right?
Yep.
Right, gotcha. Okay, fair enough. So really all we're doing is just putting a nice wrapper around that old blog post, but that's still very cool. Okay, so that was Lukash's question. We also have a few questions from Daniel, but since he's on the Hangout anyway, I will let him ask his questions directly.
Yep.
Okay. So first one was for Adam. The concurrency options, is that shown to every user that creates a new job invocation? I'm asking because normally I don't really care how my jobs are running. Like I don't care if they run all at once, or what I'm trying to say is that I prefer that to happen automatically rather than figure out myself how concurrent should it be.
The options for it are
We appear to have lost Adam's audio.
sorry?
Yeah.
I think he's back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Adam tried to talk to my microphone.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So, The fields in the form are hidden under the advanced dropdown, so if you don't open it, you will never see it.
Okay. And I was wondering also what's a use case for this? Like, in what case would I want to manage the concurrency of my remote execution jobs myself instead of letting Foreman do it?
I can answer the question. So this is the use case, for example, if you run yum install or yum update on thousands of hosts, and you would do it at once, you risk your infrastructure to go just go down, or being overwhelmed with the amount of requests generated at once. So this is one of the use cases where you want to spread the execution among some time, so that you don't overwhelm everything at the beginning.
Okay, cool. I think that it would be useful to add that to the manual then, or something. Because at first I wouldn't know why would I use it, but that's a good use case.
Fair point. We can extend the manual.
All right, and last is just a quick suggestion. I think on the perform button, in my opinion, it would be best to figure out if it works through Catello agent or through SSH, and just run, just like Foreman, find if Catello agent is installed to install the package, and if it is, use it. If not, then use remote execution, something like that.
Yeah, that might be nice improvement. I didn't want to go too far with the first iteration, and I want to. And there was a similar suggestion on the PR on Catello side, but for now I wanted to make it more explicit on the user's choice. What should be used there.
It's a stability thing, right? You want to test it and let people opt in to play with the remote execution style for a little while, and then once you know it works, then you can change it, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Also, the Catello agent should be or should start being deprecated, and remote execution, especially when more providers will show up, should replace the old functionality fully. So this is kind of way to get there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Cool. One question from IRC, Adam. I know you already answered this in IRC, but just for the recording, if you don't set any concurrency, but you do define a time window, the jobs don't all start at the same time, do they?
They don't. If you don't specify the concurrency level, it assumes concurrency level of 1 for the start, but it doesn't enforce it. So the first task will start at time 0, the second one will start after the interval between 2 tasks, but if the first task wasn't finished yet, there will be running both at the same time.
Right, so it just breaks it up and staggers it over time. Cool. Okay, well that's great. I think that's the end of all of our questions on remote execution. So thanks to both of you for all of that. So next up is Shimon, who's got a small update for us on some client-side things. So Shimon, it's over to you.
Hi. So it was a small bug that I have actually fixed. On the roles screen, administrator roles, you can see you can get to a filters screen in 2 different ways. One way is pressing the filters button, and then you will get here. Here you can see that you have a pagination, and the pagination is server-side. So if I press the page number 2, you will see in the URL that I have actually requested a different page, a different resource from that point of view. Another way to get into the filters is from editing the role. So I will get here and then to filters. The problem here is that it's a 2-pane, and here there was no pagination at all. So the bug was that you had only 20 first entries, because you were using the same screen that was used for the first one that I showed. But now you can see that I have added the pagination mechanism. It's a client-side pagination. So basically all of the records are at the client side, but you can see only a small part of them. The feature is interesting mostly to developers because we have multiple two-pane screens, and if you want to add some kind of pagination and use other screens that already use server-side pagination, now we have a way of doing it. So that's all.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Jim. I don't see any questions for you just now, so that's great. So moving on then, last for today, we have two, and I accidentally put both these things on different slides, despite the fact that it's the same speaker. That was silly of me. But yeah, we've got Daniel, who's going to cover some things on Atomic, and I think it's on OS tree provisioning, and also some updates on the hugely popular Ansible plugin as well. So Daniel, if you're ready.
Hi. Okay. Let me share the screen. First, I'm going to show you what is the well, one thing that changed in Atomic provisioning is that now Fedora Atomic has published stuff so we can provision bare metal Atomic from Foreman without having.
Can you zoom in? That's really small.
All right. So problem that we had with Fedora and Atomic before is that you download the ISO, and after you download the ISO, you have to extract it to one place, make it available to Foreman, and basically set up your own installation media. I just wanted to show that now they have published an Atomic Mirror. It's going to be on Foreman 1.11 by default, and it has all the files for Pixie Pudding. Also, in the Kickstarter for Fedora Atomic, let me open it. We can download the OS3 from upstream directly. We don't have to get the OS3 downloaded to our computer. It can be downloaded directly from the Fedora servers. So this is that's the user data. All right, this is the Kickstarter. It's going to be a little difficult to see. If you pass this parameter, atomic refs URL, you will be able to specify the repository that you want to download the OS3 from. If not, it will just default to the Fedora project Atomic repository for OS3. All right. So there's not really much to show here. I was going to create. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
I can still a bit on the small side, but
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, this is a new small feature that I'm working on. It's on this format. It generates a new name automatically when you create a new host. It's just one another thing that we don't have to do when you create a host in Foreman. Anyway, the way it works, it's just the same as with any other operating system. We just select the where to deploy it. We already have an IP. Right, we have an IP. We have a network, and yeah, it's just going to download it from that mirror. Let me set up a password. Well, I'm not going to finish provisioning here because it's gonna take a long time, and I have to do the Ansible demo as well. But anyway, all right, I only have 12 gigs of RAM. I don't know if you can I'm basically running out of memory. All right. So it should be able, right? So it was able to start the installation. If it doesn't run out of memory, it'll start to fetch the O string. All right, now it's fetching the kickstart. All right. All right. So after this, it will start fetching the O string directly from the Fedora repository. Anyway, I'll just jump to the. Okay, if it's fast enough, let's wait like 10 seconds, and if it doesn't finish, and it starts downloading the O string in seconds, I'll go and demo the Ansible inventory stuff. All right. Okay. Looks like it's okay. I'm gonna leave it in the background. Let's hope that it doesn't eat my whole memory. Okay. So for the Ansible inventory integration, Guido Gunter AGX on GitHub has been working on this dynamic inventory for Ansible. What it does is basically to allow Ansible to have access to Foreman host properties and host groups and so forth. So you can use these groups in your playbooks, and you can use this group, the Ansible, the Foreman host properties in your.
I think we're losing you, Daniel. Your audio's gone to nothing.
Sorry, I'm going to turn it off because it completely like my computer completely froze. Let's see, it should start to fetch. Right. All right. So it's starting to pull from Fedora Atomic. Cool. Okay. Now you guys see it's actually working fine. That's all I wanted to show. It just takes so much memory, and I only have 12 gigs, and I have a bunch of VMs open to demo Foreman.
Fair enough.
All right. So it's right. So I'm just going to show you. I have an Ansible Tower host that this Ansible Tower host has the inventory that the Foreman Ansible inventory that you can download from GitHub. It's on our organization, the Foreman Ansible inventory. It works the same if you have Ansible without Tower. It just works the same, but it's just easier to visualize it here. All right. So if I click on inventory Foreman, I get to see all the hosts that are available now to Ansible, which is basically all my Foreman hosts. Okay. If I click here on Foreman resources, I'm able to see things like host groups or organizations. These are groups in Ansible. So I can run playbooks on groups. Like I can run a playbook on the host group Atomic, and it will run against these boxes. Well, I have to sync it, I think, because now I have a few more. Right. Now I have a few more, but if you run it live or if you sync it, I guess I can. Okay, I'm not sure how do I sync this here. I suppose. Oh, it's that. All right. So it's syncing now. But anyway, the point is that you can use Foreman host groups and Foreman organizations and locations to run playbooks on. So let's open. Let's actually do that. I have this small playbook in here. I hope the font is big enough for you to see it. And I'm running this playbook, which just disables Foreman, leaves a node, This node will contain the operating system coming from Foreman and the organization name coming from Foreman. And it will run a privileged container on the atomic hosts that runs Cockpit. And this is going to run on a host group, on the host group Atomic. I have a host group in Foreman called Atomic, which is this 1, 2, 3, 4 hosts. Some of them are up, some of them are not. And I'm running watch on the VMs that are up so you guys can see the actual changes. All right, so I just run Ansible Playbook, point into the inventory, and I use the user fedora because the user that SSH is configured for in this Ansible, Atomic hosts is fedora, and I'll run that playbook. So it should create a file, remember, that has the operating system coming from Foreman, the organization coming from Foreman, and it will start a container with Cockpit. All right. In two of the VMs are off, so obviously it won't work in those. In the two others, it's doing it right now. Is that font big enough for you?
Not really. But it's readable if you're live, but for YouTube it will be too small, I would think. It's not particularly high resolution video.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I hope it was safe. You guys were able to see it, but by the time the playbook finished, it created a file, hi demo, with the operating system coming from Foreman, the organization coming from Foreman, in both hosts, and it also enabled Cockpit on the as a container on the Atomic hosts. So now, if I go and try to click on, I think this one was on. Right, so Cockpit should be available for us here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I need to accept the certificate because it's. Yeah. All right. All right, so you can that it's on. Right. Okay, so I think that's all that I have. If you want some help with the inventory or with using the Foreman variables and parameters, I forgot to say, if you have any parameters, they will also be shown. They will also be available in your playbooks. Here's basically all the information that we get from Foreman, so everything. Yeah, if you need any help with that, find me on IRC or on the mailing list, and I'll be glad to help you with any inventory and Ansible integration. That's it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Daniel. So that concludes. I don't see any questions for you, by the way. So you're off the hook for now. So that concludes our community demo for today. Thanks very much to all of the who came on to show what they've been working on. And as ever, this recording will go to YouTube, and I will post the details of what we discussed to the mailing list thread and the YouTube description. And if you have any questions in the future, you can come chat to us on the mailing lists or on IRC. So with that, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.